Greetings and welcome to The Thirsty Mage, the podcast back after a long and pleasant holiday break. I'm your host, David Lloyd, and this week we preview what could be one of the biggest years in gaming in 2023 and make some predictions about how these new releases will be viewed by the gaming community. Joining me this week, hoping to do his best Nostradamus impression, it's Jordan Rudick.
Yeah, oh gosh, I love the beginning of the year because it's so full of hope. And looking at some of the scores we've written down here in our notes, like there's a lot of hope, and yeah, it's just a year full of, we know what's going to happen. There's so many things to look forward to, and I do kind of love this time. It's the calm before the storm, I suppose, before the first big releases of the year start to hit. So it's a good time. I'm looking forward to getting into this topic.
Yeah, it's definitely a time when our spirits haven't been crushed yet. That time will come soon.
No doubt.
Yeah, January. It might come earlier in January as the releases start to. We're only like a couple weeks away from the big releases starting. So
I mean, what we can guarantee will crush our spirits is a never-ending tidal wave of games, and us wanting to go back to our backlog and wanting to play the new games, and just the always having to make those painful decisions. Like that is a certainty for the year. There's no need to predict that. That's gonna come to pass for sure.
Yep. And also with this, ready to embarrass us both with her pinpoint MetaCritic predictions, it's Paige Chamberlain.
Yeah, so what do I win if they're all right? That's
the reward is a TBD.
TBD.
We were going to get you a Steam Deck page, but then you decided to buy your own, so it's too bad.
Yeah, Steam Deck has been taken off the rewards list, so now we got to go back to the drawing board.
Best we can do is a game and watch now.
Every time these review scores, like the Metacritic come up, we're just gonna make a tweet to see who won that round, like who was the closest. Also, how's that gonna work if we're like a 1 point difference? Like who is? Do you split it between? Like if it's not exact and it was like in between, what do you do there?
Half point, split the points. Got to do it.
Yeah. I guess we'll have to do a cutoff point of like the Metacritic too, like 1 week or 2 weeks after launch or something like that. I don't know.
Well, with the rate that some places give out review codes, it definitely have to be post release.
Yeah, especially with Square Enix, who's decided that they don't care about reviews anymore. They're just they're just going to hoard their review codes, get those people buying.
They need them for Twitch streamers. It's fine.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, they're big on the streaming, that's for sure. But yeah, I guess this episode, it's kind of a bit of a preview / Metacritic fantasy pool episode where we're going to go through all the big releases that we know about so far this year, and we're going to each give our Metacritic prediction, and then we will tally up the results as the year go on, and I'm sure there'll be days of glory and days of defeat for all of us at any given time, starting in January. And pretty much, I'm looking at the list here, and it almost feels like there's at least one every month for the most part, if not a couple. So there'll be plenty of opportunities for gloating. Yes, yeah, that's right. February right off the bat, there's a couple on the same day. So
it feels like I think we're just on the cusp. I feel like of announcements coming too, right? Like a January Direct is likely. I'd say. I think I was reading somewhere that Xbox seems primed to be doing some kind of showing. We need dates for some of the big Xbox games coming out. So, I'm sure there will be more announcements of what's coming in the later half of the year. So this is a little bit skewed, I guess, to the first 6 months and kind of more games that we have dates or windows for. But there's still an awful lot of bangers here.
Yeah. So I guess we'll kick it off with January, and the first big release that we're doing a Metacritic for is Fire Emblem Engage. So Jordan, why don't you kick us off on how you think this Nintendo Switch port is going to fare?
Yeah, so I'm really excited for this game. I think that it's not necessarily in development for longer than other games, but from the previews that we've seen. Maybe very early ones, it does seem to be going back to kind of traditional Fire Emblem. I like the look of this game a little bit better than what Three Houses did, especially with the battlefield kind of perspective. So I've got this one at an 88. I think it's going to be one of the strongest ones in a long time. I don't know exactly how well Three Houses did, but I think it was in the high 80s, if I'm not mistaken. Someone will correct me on this, but at the very least, Three Houses seemed to be quite well loved. had a lot of content. 4 different routes you could go through. This one seems maybe a little bit more straightforward. And it's going to appeal to the Fire Emblem fans with all the returning characters from previous games showing up, and I think that can maybe be the difference between like a low 80s and a high 80s is that kind of fan service really gets people going. So what I've seen of the game looks really great. I'm excited for it, so I'm leaning towards an 88 here for this one.
Yeah, and Paige, you're from the score that you've given, you're feeling even more optimistic.
I looked at a Metacritic of previous games to sort of base it on, and with the exception of like Fire Emblem Echoes, a lot of them are in the the high 80s. And from what we've seen, it's going back to sort of the things people like the weapon triangle, doing the fan favorite characters, giving them a special gimmick, adding 100 bajillion silly mini games. So I don't think it's going to be quite.
Hey, we love those mini games.
Okay. I don't think it's going to be quite as high as Fire Emblem Awakening, which is a 92, but I think it'll be close as a 90.
So I used the same logic, but the opposite way, in the sense that I'm pretty sure Three Houses was like an 88, I think. And I don't think it's going to do as good as Three Houses, because I feel like Three Houses benefited from the Persona-esque spirit that it had with all the relationship building. I know it's like that's something that's in Fire Emblem, but I just felt like they kind of leaned into it more in Three Houses. It just looked a little too obvious, but for that, I think going back to the more traditional way will probably just lower the score just slightly. I think it's going to come in just below Three Houses.
See, now I want to change my score because I remember that I've heard things, but there are things I can't say, so I like other
change it up or down.
Down.
Oh, well, it's you got it in writing now.
I don't mind being the highest here.
Now I'm feeling better about my score if that's the case.
I'm hoping that we've got Fire Emblem purists reviewing this game. People who don't love like the relationships and the dating, and maybe they've excised that a little bit and gone heavier into the strategy element. So that's where I guess my higher score is leaning towards. It's maybe a more pure
gacha characters.
I'm pretty sure Dorothea brought up the score by at least 3 points. So pretty sure that's her name.
It's Anna, David, not Dorothy. Well, they're both good, but.
Well, yes. Did you see the
choose your wife?
There's Wolf Knight class, and they showed the little Anna on the wolf. Because the one in this one.
I did see a little Anna. I like her with the axe. I think that's a nice weapon for her to carry. So I'm all over axe wielding Anna.
Yeah,
we'll see.
So that's why it'll be.
So this is
because you can put Anna on the wolf.
The logic checks out, but it'll be interesting to see right off the bat what happens on the first one.
And we're only 2 weeks away from this, right? Like this is coming up in no time. So we're gonna get I think there's obviously we'll get reviews. I can't remember if there's another preview or something like that. The previews were really early, right? So I don't know if there's another one. Nintendo has been doing a lot of previews lately, right? So we'll see. We'll see if they've got more to say.
Well, previews benefit the publishers more because you don't get far enough in it to be able to make too many critiques. You just go, well, I hope this will be da da da.
Yeah. I mean, they're largely positive, or at least positive with like, I don't know if it's going to be like this the whole time. A little bit of a caveat, I guess. But
we'll see too, because the Personas, the 20th is when the Persona remakes come out, right?
19, I want to say.
Yeah, 19.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. With those remakes, maybe
the other is much cheaper. So the budget gamers will pick up Persona.
Can't you save $5 by buying the 2-pack too, or something like, or $3? Some ridiculous. No, it's not even. It's like 50 cents, right?
Yeah,
it was the joke. Yeah.
Oh, really? That's funny.
You got to do
it. I was just looking at the American Twitter, and because it's like the emblem rings for the different characters. Are they going to sell these different ring designs at some point? Japan only.
Oh man,
everything goes Japan only.
Yeah.
I said, will they? Not that they have, but I'm just assuming that that's a merch. Since they made a minigame out of that too. Have you seen the ring polishing? 90
I don't think
on
I have that's one of the mini games in this one. That's one of the bajillion mini games. I'm in. I'm in.
Yeah.
Give me all the mini games.
Well, we got one other January game, which comes out a few days later on the 24th. And after we talked a little bit this before the pod, I'm really wishing I had played the demo before I put my score down. But this is the Square Enix published Luminous Studios developed Forspoken. So this was actually supposed to come out last year, but they needed time to polish it up. I'm hoping that just means it's so incredibly advanced that they needed to make the code perfect, and it has nothing to do with a lackluster story or boring gameplay or anything like that. That's my hope. But I'm still scoring it a little bit I'm scoring it at 75. That's the Metacritic I'm going with. It's a tough one. Like I can see this coming in the 60s if it's a real stinker.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really hoping that it looks like, from the trailers, it looks fantastic. So I'm hoping at least like the gameplay will bring up the score a bit. So I'm kind of hedging my bet around a 75.
I think my problem is I still don't really know what this game is. Like I don't know exactly what it's going for. I've seen trailers, I've seen people talk about it, but I just don't know, like, at its core, what's the objective? What are you trying to do? I've seen some of the gameplay, and yeah, I think visually the game is going to be attractive, but at the end of the day, is it going to be like this hollow world that you're exploring? I don't know. I heard kind of some sour impressions from the demo. It's been delayed a couple of times, and that always gets me apprehensive. Maybe this is something that just it's not coming together and eventually just has to be released. And I think about all the games that Square Enix has coming up this year and has released last year. Like, at some point, you got to get this out the door so they can move on to the next thing. And so I wonder if Forspoken coming out really early in the year, before basically the year of Final Fantasy begins, I wonder if that's what's happening here. So my expectations are a little lower. I've got it at a 72.
And based on Paige's score, I'm guessing she thinks this is one of those release dumps.
I thought I was being harsh, but
well, normally whatever Sony, like, it's Square Enix, but it's like the next PlayStation 5 big deal supposedly that they're trying to push.
Mm-hmm.
But not that many people seem into it, and usually they get scored pretty high anyway, whether or not they're that good. Really, other than they often seem to fit into specifically not my kind of game, and this one definitely seems like that personally. But for once, I just want to see, maybe not so good game actually get a lower score, like as if it wasn't being prated up by a bigger company trying to make it their next hit game.
I mean, Square Enix has had some misses recently too. Like not everything that they've been doing has been good. They've had a lot of good games, but they've also had some duds. And again, with what they have coming later this year, the Pixel remasters coming to multiple platforms, FF16 is looking very good. We're going to talk about that game later. And then Final Fantasy Rebirth, 7 Remake, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. Oh my gosh, too many subtitles.
Too many Rees.
Too many Rees. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they have like this catalog of games and plan for games. They're going to be really good. I wonder if this is going to be one that just doesn't quite nail what people have been liking from their stuff.
Well, I've seen like mixed things. Some people seem to like it, but I just mean, like, no, Square Enix will be fine if it doesn't do well, and even PlayStation should be fine. But I just think, if it is a not so good game, I want to see that reflected in the major critic scores for once, and not just it getting that point slightly higher than it should, maybe.
Yeah. You don't often see like a big budget game like this get a score like you've predicted, Page 65. It does usually get maybe that AAA bump up kind of thing. But yeah, we'll see.
Voice acting, so.
What was that one from Platinum that maybe got shut down or no one was still really enjoying? Godfall or something like that?
Babylon's
Fall. That's the one. Yeah. Like, I mean.
Yeah, but that was the difference.
The January flops, was that Babylon or March? I don't know. It was Babylon January. February, I think.
Babylon's Fall, March 3rd of last year, 41% on Metacritic. Oh my gosh, that is abysmal.
Yeah,
but there's a Square Enix game, right? Like,
yeah.
So I mean, they can come out with stuff like that. I'm not thinking Forspoken's going to be under 50. Like that would be really
Avengers
terrible,
was 67.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm thinking
But
that's
I've
got to be the
seen.
floor, but
Then again,
who
I
knows?
mean, I have seen some bigger outlets do give lower scores. Typically, it's when the game has been such a big buggy mess that they can't deny it. So,
Hmm.
and I haven't seen anything suggesting this game will have those problems. But maybe just the other general flaws that it presumably may or may not have.
I'm hoping it gets a PS5 bump. Like how many? There's
Yeah.
not a whole lot of like true PS5 games out there that
Mm.
really take full use of the hardware. So I'm hoping it's like one of these things where it's like, well, it at least gets some extra points for making the PlayStation work its hardest.
If they're confident in the game, I think we'll start to see the marketing cycle ramp up pretty quickly here. Because again, it's 3 weeks away, I suppose,
Yeah.
just after Fire Emblem. So it's the first big game of the year for them, and yeah, we should see more about it soon if they are confident in it. So yeah,
Yep.
I guess just stay tuned, right?
And our next game is the second big game of the year for Square Enix. And one that's
potentially the biggest game of the year for Square Enix.
It's definitely
sales-wise,
it's definitely the franchise mentioned most on this podcast, for
right.
better or worse.
Yeah.
And that's Octopath Traveler 2. And Paige, why don't you kick us off with what you think the reception for that one's going to be like?
So I've gone with 87, just to be not an exact same digit as one of you guys, but just sort of looked at what the first game's score was and then bumped it up a bit because it's a sequel. And I do think that they will improve on the main flaws of the first game with regards to character interaction. And they're probably, taking the time to experiment with it more and just any other improvements. Like they tend to, even just with the demos with games, get feedback and fix the things. So having a whole game's feedback to work on, I think it should be a little bit higher than one. But then we could have the opposite thing where people are like, oh, it doesn't do enough, so I'm going to rate it lower, even if it is technically better or something. But I think pretty high 80s.
Yeah, I'm thinking high 80s too, because the first one I got an 83 on Metacritic. And so I was thinking, well, they can't make a worse game than the first one, so it has to be higher than that. I'm just joking.
No, you're not. I'm changing my score.
He's going 99.
I was going to write 04 on it, but
since the characters are going to actually make eye contact in this game, 17-point boost does seem reasonable.
Like absolutely, yes.
Yes.
Some of the artists worked on Live Alive, so they went back and said how they should actually make a good game.
Yeah. Well, what's funny though is when you mention the artwork, it like graphically it looks like they even stepped up their game too, though.
Yeah,
it looks even nicer than the first one, which already looked really nice.
I mean, it stands to reason that they're getting more competent and efficient with HD 2D, right? Like they've had a few games to work on this style now.
New style.
Yeah, and it kind of. I was just gonna say, it kind of ushered in like this. No, it's okay. It kind of ushered in like this new retro way of displaying games, and so yeah, this one looks like but it's also coming to other platforms too. It's not just Switch. So maybe because of that, like some of the footage we've seen might have been high end computers or PS5 or something like that. So it could be getting that bump from just the little footage that we've seen so far.
So I ended up going with an 86, and I would have went a little bit higher, but my only one thing is I have this feeling that because the Switch and the Steam versions are releasing at the same time, that the Steam version is going to run better, and so it's going to affect the Switch scores. That's my guess.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I also think that the Switch's portability. I know obviously there's the Steam Deck now, but the Switch's portability does still kind of give it a bump in score sometimes because you're like, oh, it does this thing wrong, but I can take it anywhere, right? So you do get that bump that kind of counteracts that a little bit, the performance woes. I think we've seen that in the past. Yeah, I think you guys, your scores are perfectly reasonable, a little bit higher than Octopath 1. I'm going to push mine even higher. So I had it originally at 88, but you guys just talking to, reminding me how good this game is looking. I'm going to go with 92, and I'll give a few reasons why. One is that they're retaining what worked from the original game, and that's the visual style, the battle system, and the music, and the fact that you can pick the whichever character you want to start with. So 4 things that really worked in the first game's favor are returning. If anyone's heard kind of the sample tracks that, gosh, is it Natsuki? I can't remember the fellow's name who does the Octopath music, but composer, what's his name? Yeah, Yasunori. Oh, Nishiki. Sorry, Yasunori Nishiki. He's on Twitter. He's been posting a couple of snippets from songs. One of which was one of the battle themes. It sounds just as magical as the first one did, which had an incredible soundtrack. But now, obviously, what they've been doing with some of the previews of the game, or kind of teases, I guess, they've been showing the characters kind of interacting with one another, right, or crossing paths, I suppose. So they're fixing what was everyone's biggest problem with the first game, and that's that the characters didn't really interact with one another, not in a meaningful way. So if the characters in the story of Octopath Traveler 2, if the characters are naturally coming across each other and their stories are intersecting in meaningful ways, I think you have the recipe for what could be one of the great RPGs of this generation. If not like a top 5 RPG, so that's kind of, I think the sky is the limit for this game. I think the first one was just unpolished, and it makes sense. They were trying something new, but now they've had, kind of years of experience to work on this game. And you saw the reception, the first game did sell a lot of copies. So I think they're expecting more here. And so I'll go with a 92 for, if only to just, stick a knife in Casey's side,
We're going to remember at the end of this whole thing, if you end up losing by 4 points.
Yeah. If I give it a 92 and it goes like, it's probably going to go 100 or something.
It's and then I get the win because I'm the closest to your original.
Yeah,
that's right.
I remember 2 years ago, the Blue Jays were playing a game near it wasn't quite the end of the season. It was like 3/4 in. I think it was around the 100 or so game mark. And their Marcus Semien blew this easy play to end the game. And then the Blue Jays end up losing in overtime. And then they missed the play. And I said that day, I said, you know what? This is going to cost them the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then they missed the playoffs by 1
Sure
game.
enough. Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's always the way, right? It's always like some kind of. So thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. It's always some kind of like nothing moment or nothing game kind of throwaway thing that ends up coming to bite you in the butt, right? So, but we'll see. My hopes are full speed ahead with this one. I'm prepared. I'm not prepared to be let down, but I think I was super excited for Elden Ring, and Elden Ring delivered. I'm kind of there with Octopath Traveler 2. Like I'm ready to be Elden Ringed again with this one. Live up to my hopes and dreams here. So we'll see what happens.
I certainly tease you a lot about the game, but I genuinely do want the second one to be fun, and especially since I'm buying it on day one, I definitely want it to be
again, the fact that it's available on multiple platforms makes me think they have faith in this series. It doesn't need to just be an exclusive to sell on one console that it's made for. You're putting it out in multiple places. You're expecting it to sell in those places. So I'm happy that they have faith in it. I think the little we've seen of the game shows. And yeah, again, another game that's really only a number of weeks away. It's not months away; it's weeks away.
And the next game on our list, like Paige had mentioned earlier in the episode, is releasing on the same day, which is Atelier Ryza 3. And I accidentally deleted the very long subtitle, so I'm not sure what...
Mysterious Key something. Is it Mysterious
Ryza?
It's
like Mysterious Key and Shadow something, or I can't remember. It's the third...
Alchemist of the End and the Secret Key.
Secret.
You were close. You were close.
Mysterious is Sophie's thing. Secret is Ryza. So it was like Secret Hideout. What was the second one?
Yes,
Secret
that's right.
Else. Yeah, they have a keyword in their trilogies. So
another game where we're all pretty close in the predictions. But Jordan, why don't you kick us off with this one?
Yeah, so I've played the first 2 games. I reviewed the second one, which I liked more than the first. I couldn't really get into the first one for whatever reason. I felt like I got stuck for. Yeah. The beginning, it didn't really grab me. The second one gets into it a little bit more. I like the combat better in the second one. It's a little bit more dynamic, more things happening. These games, like they do feel kind of samey, but they're also very cozy and kind of comfy. Everything's really brightly colored. Everyone's pretty happy. The problems don't necessarily seem to be like major problems. I guess it just feel kind of like a day-to-day life sim in a way, except you're just making whatever you want in your giant pot. I'm excited for this game. I don't know why. I'm surprised I'm the highest of the three of us, but I guess it's close. I think it'll land at an 83. I think the team working on these games, these Atelier games, they've kind of settled into like this niche, like they know what they're doing. They just kind of make slight changes or adjustments and polish up features of the game. They don't take a number of like major risks or anything, but the core gameplay loop is satisfying. Again, making things through alchemy and then seeing what comes up and using it in battle. It ends up being quite satisfying. They found a way to make crafting as integral as a component to the series, pretty fun to do. You're constantly collecting things, making new things, unlocking things, seeing numbers go up, meters go up, meters fill up when you're throwing things in the alchemy cauldron. So yeah, I've got an 83 for this one.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see that Paige is the lowest of the three and it's being the highest on the franchise.
Yeah, but
she's going to finish it. Paige, you're going to finish it first before we do, I think. But
yes, but I'm taking into this is Metacritic, so it is a pool of multiple different review scores, and actually I was surprised that the first Riser was like pretty much close to these scores as well. Because again, I felt like I liked it alright, but it just takes so long to get into. The synthesis system in the Riser games is my favorite out of the Atelier games. The way it loops in, so you don't have to make the item specifically to then put it into another recipe. You just morph it into, like, it just chains into it, so it's so much easier and really fun, and you actually want to experiment with it more. There's lots of things I really love Atelier Riser 2, because I gave that a 9, which part of it is how much better is the third game going to be. What else are they going to do to make, because that was like, to me, sort of the best of what little of that series I played. So I'm not sure if it's going to be too much higher. And then it'll still have things that attract it to other people, like the Atelier games use the same sort of models. Some people don't like the way the animations in that are, because they've got flat faces, things like that. So I went like 81, so it's like just about the same or a tiny bit higher than the other two Risers. But I'm not sure how much more they're going to be able to improve it in this last Riser game.
Paige, have you seen much in the way of previews of this game or trailers? I really haven't seen anything mentioned about it.
I've seen the trailers, but that's it. So like, I haven't even seen for sure like whether certain features from the second game are coming back or not.
Yeah, I was curious about that. Like, what's returning, what's changing? I mean, it made sense that it was going to be a trilogy because they've done trilogies before, but I just don't know what really to expect with this one, other than just kind of more of the same, I guess.
Well, it's like you said, it's got kind of this cozy niche where it probably won't be too far off. Like, it'll probably be pretty similar with maybe a few improvements here or there, which is why I went with 82, because I figured like, it'll probably score a little bit higher. The other thing too is that Ryza 2 seemed to gain the franchise a little bit of more popularity than it had previously. So maybe some new outlets will pick it up that were excited to play 2 and are kind of moving on to 3 now. So but yeah, I can't imagine there'll be a huge difference between the two scores unless I think if anything, like maybe it goes lower. I think if there is a huge discrepancy, it would be lower, but no, I think it'll probably just be kind of along the same lines.
I mean, what happens sometimes is you get that series fatigue, but there are just so many of these games, and again, they have this dedicated following. And
yeah,
I mean, I was going to look up how many Atelier games are on Switch. I would guess it's probably around a dozen or so. But yeah, it is I do want to look into this game more. I am interested. Again, it's just kind of solid, decent quality, and I guess we'll find out more next month.
Yeah. And the next big title that's coming out is in March. Now, we're not going to do a Metacritic prediction. Sorry?
I'm sorry, I have a facetious prediction, and that is that the Kirby remake that is coming on the same day as Ryza and Octopath will score the highest.
Of the 3? Yeah.
I think that's possible for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Just because the original Wii version scored pretty well, I think. The Return to Dreamland on Wii U? No, Nintendo Wii, I think. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I said it's facetious, but if it comes true, then it's okay.
Yeah.
Bonus
Paige will
point
ask
for
for bonus
Paige.
points. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the March the big RPG in March that we're not going to do Metacritic on because technically I've already played the game, so it's a bit of a unfair advantage on my part, and it's one of those games that's so long that it's hard to say when all the reviews are going to come in to begin with. I guess it depends what kind of lead in NISA gives the reviewers, but it's the Legend of Heroes Trails to Azure. So this is, and again, it's not even really a new release. It's a port because it was available in Japan a long time ago, but it's being ported to Switch with a new localization by the same localization people. But yeah, well, that's a big one in March. Definitely going to be picking that one up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're just going to skip that one for our predictions episode just to keep things fair, though. And which brings us to maybe the biggest game of the year coming on May 12th, which is Breath of the Wild 2 Tears of the Kingdom. So I guess I'll kick off the score on this one. So based on the scores I see, I think we're all the kind of the same mind that the likelihood of Breath of the Wild beating the 97 that the original one had is pretty unlikely. For me, I figure it's going to be close enough to the original. There'll be enough little upgrades or things of that nature to keep people interested. It won't feel like a fatigue of just replaying the first Breath of the Wild. But I think what'll happen is, it seems to be happening to most Nintendo games, is that I think the performance issues are not going to be as easily ignorable in the second game. I think it's going to have a little bit harder time running. When Breath of the Wild first came out, everyone had a brand new Switch. Like they were brand spanking new. You picked up your Switch from the store, you picked up Breath of the Wild, and everyone enjoyed it.
You
Now
played it
you're
on
playing
your
with like a
Wii U and you wore the
5-year-old
Nintendo
Switch.
Switch shirt.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's very disappointing that this isn't coming to the Wii U for all those Wii U fans that picked up the game.
Yeah, so they're going to put out their frustration with dropping the review scores by a couple points. Then that's why I went with 95.
Oh man, we don't have the time for it, but it would have been so funny would to be like it is you can't do it because they just add whenever, but like the guessing what the user score total would be because everyone puts zeros or tens.
0 or 10. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'll go next. I mean, gosh, of all the games on this list, I think this is the one that most people in the world are looking forward to. Like, I know that kind of wherever you game most of the time, you are aware of like Zelda games coming out, especially the follow up to such a huge one with Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom is an interesting one to me. We really haven't seen a ton of it, which is funny. Like it's coming out in 4 months, and we've seen kind of the same footage shown a couple of times. With just some slight alterations. We obviously had that teaser with Zelda and Link in the Dark Cave. So I just don't really know. I don't think it can live up to the original. I think that was just so groundbreaking. That this open world Zelda game that hadn't been done before, and yeah, it wasn't perfect, but man, it was just such a dream to play. Really, really felt like nothing else. I think you guys might agree. Kind of reinvented the open world genre, and certainly added some a new way of doing that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Breath of the Wild 2, I don't see living up to that. I see it maybe being an incredible game. Like, don't get me wrong. I think it'll get a 91, and that's nothing to sneeze at. It could still very well be Game of the Year, but I just don't think it can be the kind of second coming of Miyamoto or something like that.
Can you rate for Nintendo website and only predict 91? Is that allowed?
Yeah, I guess so. I know it's blasphemy, right? Like I'm going to lose my review editor's cap here pretty soon, but yeah, I don't think. I think it's going to be really, really, really excellent. Just it's going to not be able to capture that spark that the first game did. And so I'm lower than you two guys on this one.
I wish we knew if there was. I just want to jump in real quick before you give yours, Paige. I wish we knew if there was dungeons or not.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised. I'd be really surprised if there weren't.
A lot of people are like upset that we haven't seen more. And it's like, well, it's not out till what, May? You know, they're gonna do it a little bit at a time. You know, do the promotion in order. So
there's got to be a full
everything.
direct for just
So
Breath of the Wild still in the works.
I need to know what amiibos are functional and do it, because you could get Wolflink in the game. Does that mean that the Loftwings amiibo gives you a Loftwing?
I think it just gives you a Switch shirt.
Every amiibo now just gives you a shirt. You can put in any amiibo, it gives you a shirt.
Oh, the season pass purchase bonus this time will be a Wii U shirt.
That instant seller flies off the shelf at that point.
Yes, I went with 96 because, like, you know, almost the same but not quite. Because it might be better, but people will expect more, basically. And I think some people will be harsh on it, although there are a couple of people who were like kind of deliberately harsh on it last time. So
it'll definitely be interesting because
people are still mad about their weapons breaking. So
I doubt they would take it out. I think they're going to keep that.
Oh yeah, I think so too. Well, the Master Sword is already broken.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I was going to say, have we seen any games in history where like the first game and then the sequel are both like almost 10s, like 95 plus? Like, is there in the Metacritic era, has that happened? Like, what's the closest 2-game pairing where you maybe like Portal and Portal 2 or Half-Life and Half-Life like 2?
Not 10s, but like as in right next to each other. Like the Telluride, it was like 80 and then 81.
Yeah, no, I mean specifically like over like 90 or 95. Like
Portal, I'm thinking like most recent, probably Portal and Portal 2.
Yeah.
Like Half-Life and Half-Life 2 Persona 5 would have been pretty.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Portal is 90 and Portal 2 is 95.
Yeah, so that's close. Like that's.
Yeah.
But I mean, but 95 plus. Imagine both getting, 96, 97. Man, back to back. I can't imagine it. It just seems too much. But
we'll see.
There
we go.
We're waiting.
Because what's the highest? Like one of the highest things on Metacritic was Ocarina of Time being 99, and then Majora's Mask is 95. So.
I can't believe Majora's Mask is at 95. That seems crazy.
Yeah, I thought that would be lower.
A little more divisive, I thought, but especially coming after Ocarina of Time. But
well, I think it's one of those like differences between the reviewers and the general public.
Could be. I like both those games a lot. Like, they're not my favorite Zelda games or anything, but I can definitely appreciate them.
Yeah. So we got the next game up on our list. Might be one. This one might be one of the more divisive ones. Like it could go. I think this could go anywhere between like 60 and 100. It's one of those ones where there's so much. It's been such a while since the last one. You've got so much ongoing saga with the company that makes the game. There's just so many things at play here that could change this review score. And this game is Diablo 4, which funnily enough comes on June the 6th, which I'm sure was specifically chosen with the devil motif there. But this is going to be an interesting one because you may even get, I don't know if you think it's been long enough that outlets are not? I know there was a refusal. I think when the stories were first breaking, where some review outlets were just flat out not reviewing their games for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if enough time has passed that won't be an issue this time around, or the game might just be too big to ignore at this point.
I mean, you've got the acquisition of Blizzard Activision happening, right? Or Activision Blizzard, like that. I think that is not buying goodwill, but it's like I think there's a hope that like Microsoft will help to turn that company around in terms of its culture. It'll hopefully make it a better place, more inclusive, better treatment of workers, stuff like that. I think that in the news recently, a part of Activision Blizzard won the formed a union, and which Microsoft seemed to recognize. I'm butchering the story, I'm sure, but there was some good news in that the worker side forefront recently. So I think that there will be more openness to reviewing this game. I can definitely understand why some outlets wouldn't want to, but there's still a lot of time between now and June 6th for things to happen. So I'll go first here. I think I've got it rated pretty high. I'm going to say it right now. This is probably, of all the games on the list, this has to be Casey's number one most hyped for game, right? And I think this is going to be, gosh, it has been so long since Diablo 3 came out, right? Years and years and years. And you have the, not, can we call it a flop? Like Diablo Immortal, I think, is a flop, right? You had the mobile version not do well. No, I know that's the thing, right? I'm sure they still made some money on it, but now you've got like the game that kind of like solidifies your name, right?
What's the opposite of a cult classic where like nobody seems to like it, but it did very well financially?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if there's a
blockbuster too big to fail.
AAA trash.
AAA. That's a good one.
Can we just call it
AAA freight train? There's no stopping the moneymaker.
It's a school bus on fire or something like that. Dump truck on fire.
I get
a dump truck full of money, but the dump truck's on fire.
Yeah.
I don't think I put it too low, but you guys are going to say I went with 78 because no one there seems to be making good business decisions, and Diablo 3 didn't have such a good launch. There was a lot of issues with the game, and they had bad ideas like the auction house and things like that. So, and they did the mobile game that and they were very indignant when people were unhappy about that. So I don't know how in touch are they going to be now that they just got some minor vocal feedback? Are they actually going to make what people really want, or is it just going to be pretty good but not great?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And if you hear the doorbell ring, it was definitely Casey leaving a flaming bag of dog poop on your
100%.
Yeah, at your front door. But yeah, it's definitely tough because like Activision has they like you said, they don't really ever listen to people. Like they just kind of do their own thing, and so it could be I could easily be pessimistic on the launch because. If they do try to do something crazy with like Diablo Immortal with some kind of money grab, like there very well could be some kind of money grab involved in this, and that'll obviously like have people coming out with pitchforks on the review score. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and go with the 90 in the hopes that Activision doesn't feel like they can pooch this launch with because they've got that Microsoft acquisition that still hasn't been finalized yet, so they don't want to. They can't burn too many bridges here. I'm hoping that Diablo Immortal was the money grab, and they'll just do right by Diablo 4. That's my hope.
I mean, this is one of their tentpole franchises for Blizzard, right? Like Diablo, StarCraft, Warcraft. And so this is when one of these comes out, it's a big deal, like World of Warcraft has been ongoing. They've been doing expansions. They did the classic thing for all that I know. And I have a bunch of friends that play, including Casey, like that seems to be doing fine. StarCraft seems to be dead. Like, so you really only have two now, right? You've got World of Warcraft and then the Diablo kind of mainline games. So this is a big deal for them. Like this can't really do poorly. And I think that, they've been obviously been working on this for a long time. They had the mobile game version of it come out, so maybe they've been able to take out some of the mobile trappings from this one because you already have that version, and you want to keep them distinct. So if this one has a good like single player, play version, I suppose, and it doesn't have too many like, I don't know that it'll have microtransactions. I could see it having like a battle pass type thing. And I could see it doing the seasons thing that Diablo 3 has had success with. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you, David. I do think it's going to be a really good game. Maybe even one of the best of the year.
Yeah, here's hoping. And the next game on the list, this is my most anticipated. It's another game that I think could wildly fluctuate depending on how it's perceived. This one is Final Fantasy 16. So this comes out on June 22nd for PlayStation 5 exclusive. Another one. And Paige, why don't you kick us off with your prediction on how the reviewing public will perceive this game when it comes out?
So wouldn't it be the reviewing private to get the Metacritic score? Gone with 82. I think it'll have that bit where even regardless of quality, there'll be people giving it 9s, and then a few outlets going like 7s, and so because I think from what I've seen, it looks like it's going to be really good. It'll depend how well the story's handled and how some of the bits of the gameplay changes goes, because that can often be a point of contention for people. I think it might even come down to tiny little things that might annoy people, like, how the UI, how easy is that to read between all the different things, and how it doesn't necessarily go with the theming of the game. But I think it'll be a pretty good game, but the reviews will still all pull together at about 82.
Yeah, my biggest concern for this one is that there's always like this contingent of people who are upset that Final Fantasy is not turn-based anymore. So the action-based combat is never like they're never going to give it a high score just because
it's the opposite of Like a Dragon when they went to turn.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, if you just want to play an old Final Fantasy game, you could play 13 or 15. That'd be what they like, right?
Oh gosh, I'm going to be sick with this conversation. Please get me out of it.
Oh, but I'm optimistically going with 89. I think it's going to be a visual treat for the eyes. Like it looks like there's those Esper or Eidolon fights look like they're going to be incredible. So I think those are going to be some jaw-dropping moments that I think will look good on the PS5. I think the story is going to be good. I've never really minded this whole kind of futuristic, side reality thing that the Final Fantasies have always done. I don't really care that they're going back to the medieval roots. Like it's fine. That's fine. I don't care. It looks good. Looks like the story would be neat. But my 89 is squarely put onto Yoshi P's shoulders. I have a hard time.
David, please.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing that Yoshi P can make anything lower than an 89 game. I just don't think it's in his blood.
Final Fantasy 16 is the game that I've given the highest score to that I'm the least interested in. Like there's that big discrepancy between the fact that I think it'll be good and the fact that I'm not super interested in it. Yes, I am one of those I wish Final Fantasy was always turn-based. I recognize that's a silly kind of antiquated
Octopath Traveler too.
Exactly. the real Final Fantasy on this list. I know that's antiquated thinking, and I want games to evolve, obviously. But that doesn't mean that I have to be interested in them. And I'm with you, David. I think the Eidolon fights look really cool. I just don't know what's happening kind of minute to minute. Like, how does your party work? I think I was just kind of really turned off by what Final Fantasy 15 was. Like that just didn't really grab me. I didn't love the combat. I found it pretty basic. I didn't like the way spells were used. And it's not like I don't like action RPGs. Like I love the Ys games. We're getting a new one of those soon. There are action RPGs that I enjoy, but I guess I wish Final Fantasy 16 was more like Xenoblade or something. I like that kind of actiony turn-based, not just a full departure into action. Obviously loved Elden Ring. Elden Ring is an action RPG. But yeah, I've got it at an 85. I do think this will be a very good Final Fantasy game. I think it'll be better than 15. I just don't know if it's going to be, the absolute best RPG that Square Enix puts out this year. I don't think it will be.
I also think it's weird that we don't get as many. Like, we still get a few. And actually, I just realized the reason why. The reason we don't get many Final Fantasy spin-offs nowadays is because they're all bad mobile games. But
Yes.
growing up for me, it was like I think Final Fantasy had gone to PlayStation, but like all their spin-offs and remakes and stuff went to DS, so I sort of knew it from those things. But they don't even feel like they need the Final Fantasy name anymore. Like, if they want to make Bravely Default Octopath Traveler, they don't need to call it Final Fantasy and put that coat of paint on it.
I mean, yeah, they don't need a name. They have like art styles and the fact that they're turn based. They can just say classic RPG, and people know what you're going to get.
Well, that's with all those Square Enix releases that came out within a few months of each other last year. It was interesting to see just the sheer variety of different art styles, like how different Direfield to Valkyrie to Star Ocean looked, and even then Harvestella had a very simplistic doll-like style. So it was like, yeah, they don't feel the need to put that name to things to sell them, and can let things stand on their own.
For sure.
Not related
for the next
to
game,
the topic that much, but
yeah. Well, I'm actually our next episode. Casey and I are going to be talking about, and I'm not sure if you'll be with this page, but Crisis Core is the next episode that we're recording, and I was surprised at how I'm loving that game, and I own it but never played it. I actually have it on my PSP. But then I guess I can't say you gave me a game for Christmas too. That's a Final Fantasy spinoff, so I'm looking forward to playing that too. It's funny that you mentioned those spinoffs, because I'm going back to the well for those. Looking forward to them.
Well, yeah, because it was like the spinoffs were action or tactics games, and now it's sort of like now you're going to these spiritual spinoffs to get that, because the main games have gone action.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jordan, you added this one, and so June 22nd is the date. It's actually coming out on the same day as Final Fantasy 16.
I don't know. That's not the date. I don't know. Did I write that?
No. Oh, okay. Maybe you cut and pasted.
I did. I cut and pasted.
I don't think
I didn't change the date.
They're releasing a game on the same day as Final Fantasy 16.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, no, that's a funny mistake I made. No.
It probably
first half of the year, I think, is all we really know.
Okay, maybe we'll leave this. I'll skip this one because we do have a few. Actually, okay. I'll talk about the other ones, and then I'll lead with this one, because we're hitting the point where we're at the games that don't have a release date yet.
Yes.
So the ones we do, the last two that we have release dates for, that I'll just mention, that we're not doing review scores for, though, is Baldur's Gate 3 is coming out on Steam, and the reason we're not doing Metacritic for that one is just because it's been out for 2 years technically in early access. So it's I don't know. It just seems like an odd one to score, because it's like they're constantly getting feedback to make it better. It is something I'm excited about. I'm actually going to be picking it up soon, if release day at the very latest, but I might even pick up the early access just to kind of get a head start on it. But I've had so much fun playing the Divinity from Larian Studios that it's definitely a pickup for me. And Paige, you have this one already too, I think. So you've played it some.
Yeah, the early access build of it.
Yep. And the last dated game we have is July 7th, which is The Legend of Heroes Trails into Reverie. Again, just not doing a Metacritic prediction for that one, just because that one is so. Trails of Cold Steel 4 was like 100 plus hours, and I'm assuming Trails into Reverie will be about the same.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling this is going to be an odd one in the vein of the third Trails in the Sky, where it's not really like a part of it is part of an ongoing story, but it's kind of this odd offshoot of like kind of almost fill in the blanks of backstories for lots of people, which I'm excited to see. But it's I don't know, it just makes it kind of weird to score, and I don't want to jinx it either. So that's another reason why not to look at that one. But so I guess this comes to the non-dated section of our list, which is Hollow Knight Silk Song. So we're assuming this is 2023, even though this is supposed to have been released like the past 3 years from, and Lana Page, you kick us off with how you think this one will be received.
I thought mine was high, but not as high as your guys. This is probably the one where I didn't look up the review scores of the last game to compare it to. Actually, I just was guessing. So I've gone with 89. Again, I've heard really good things about Hollow Knight and seen people play it, so I think it'll be rated pretty high. Just, especially with the anticipation, people waiting for it for ages, like, how much better is it going to be as a sequel? Especially when it's a sequel to a good game. Like, how much more can you do?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, yeah, I looked up the score, and it was the first one was rated a 90, so I went with 91, figuring it would be just slightly better. But yeah, I'm with you in the sense where expectations might be so sky high at this point that it'd be hard to live up to them. And there's always, we're at this weird crossroads of like every Switch game has the potential of struggling to perform. Like it seems like a lot of the latest releases on Switch are all suffering from different kinds of performance issues. So I'm curious if like the length of time that it's taken to get Hollow Knight done, does that mean like they're struggling to get it to run on Switch properly, and that's why it keeps getting delayed? Or
on PC actually has a lower Metacritic score, and I went to see why, and there's some review that's given it 65 and saying that it's a Dark Souls wannabe. Yeah.
I wish there was a way we could eliminate a few of those outliers, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I'm one of those outliers for Crisis Core, so just leave it right there, please, okay? Yeah, Hollow Knight Silksong, it's in the camp for me of the developers are not going to release it till it's perfect. Like, it's been predicted to be released, or it's been teased. We think it's going to be shadow dropped at every E3, every presentation that happens. Like, oh, now get hyped for Silksong. There's so much hype behind this game. They cannot release this game unless it is perfect. Like, I really think they would wait until the end of time to release Silksong, and knowing that it is as good or better than the first game. So
Sports Story perfect?
No, Sports Story got. I think they got screwed over. And there's something. There's a funny thing I saw on Twitter about like a dev kind of room you find in the game where there's characters complaining about like being rushed to release. Saw that, right? Like, you get the feeling like that did encounter some issues and just had to get shipped eventually. But Silksong, I just don't feel like they've been rushed. Like, I don't feel like there's this sense that we have to release it now. Team Cherry is really, I don't think they're working on anything else. Like, this is it, Hollow Knight continues to sell. They have Game Pass money now, right? It's Silksong's coming to Game Pass, so they're kind of living on easy street here. Just take their time in making this game. So I think I've got it at a 94. I think it's going to be better than the first game. I think it's going to be incredible. I think it's going to be drop everything and play it. Everyone talking about it, like total event game. And Xbox kind of controls the narrative. This could be like their big, summer game. Like, they could say at E3, Silksong is available now, and everyone's just going to lose their minds, right? Like, this is their chance to take like another indie darling and like just get all these people on Game Pass that want to play Silksong right now. Hey, it's available day one on Game Pass. Go get it.
Yep. And we got another, I guess they're indie game because it's, they went to Kickstarter, got their money. But I think this is going to have the opposite path of Silksong, and this is, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Udian Chronicles, 100 Heroes. So this is the spiritual successor to Suikoden, which is going to, I think, greatly suffer from the fact that Suikoden is being re-released in a remake. But why don't you kick us off, Jordan? Because I know you and I both played kind of like the little precursor
Oh my gosh,
game
yeah.
that neither of us liked, which has made me really sour on what way happened in this game.
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate that got released first as a side game and may turn some people off of the main game that it's actually supposing to advertise a little bit. So we played Aiden Chronicles Rising, which was kind of an action RPG with some city building elements that really were quite forced, I found.
Yeah.
And yeah, as we talked about that game, didn't love it. Aiden Chronicles proper, the Kickstarter game. Yeah, it is funny that after it got funded on Kickstarter, saw a lot of success there, that Konami goes and announces they're gonna do what the Kickstarter was basically trying to do itself, and actually bring Suikoden into a modern platform. So I don't know that that's gonna hurt it necessarily. I think both games can do okay. I think that the Kickstarter game, the main one, I think is going to be good. I've got it at an 80. I'm the highest of the three of us here. I guess my skepticism comes from playing the first Suikoden and just not being super enthused by like all the characters. I think it's more of a cool idea in theory than practice. I guess I'm more of a purist, as I've made it very clear on this podcast a number of times. I like my more traditional style RPGs, with either a set party or maybe not too many characters to worry about, but 100 heroes is a lot. So I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but yeah, I've got it at an 80 for me.
That's pretty much my thought is the 100, like, because I haven't actually played the Suikoden to know, how having big parties and that work. But yeah, definitely, yeah, the 100 heroes seem like the ones where you have like so many different characters always seem like can be a bit messy, and then feel not that fulfilling. I'm sure it'll still be a good game, but you're putting out a 76 because I don't think it's going to be like as good as maybe other people putting so much money into the Kickstarter are hoping.
Yeah, I went with 75 just for the same reason. I feel like, well, a lot of these Kickstarter games, they don't have a great track record. Like you get your few diamonds in the rough sort of thing, but the majority of these Kickstarter games, I think, the developers have kind of like big ideas and then things fall apart when it's time to kind of put pen to paper. So I've this one feels like, just because with Rising having kind of fell flat for me, and it just seems like one of these ones that's just kind of could potentially destined to come in with a thud. So yeah, we'll see how that one goes. The next one, we got another big Microsoft game, Starfield. So this is it feels like forever since we've had a really big oh man, why am I blanking on the publisher's name?
Bethesda.
Big Bethesda release. Starfield has been, I guess we'll even see, like, technically it was supposed to release last year, then now it's supposed to release this year, but doesn't actually have a full-on date. We haven't actually seen any gameplay, as far as I think we've only seen cutscenes as far as I know. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. It's one of those things, I don't know if Microsoft can afford this to be a dud, but Jordan, why don't you let us know what you think is going to be happening with this game?
Yeah, that's my thought exactly. This game can't fail. Like, this is their first big kind of post
true Xbox
acquisition or merger, right? Like acquiring Bethesda. Like, this is your first big game that's only coming to Xbox now. This is why you went out and bought Bethesda, because you wanted games like this to be exclusive to your platform. I thought delaying this game last year was catastrophic. Frankly, it made it so that Xbox really had no holiday title. Maybe there was a Forza game, but this was it. This was the game that was supposed to move consoles over the holidays, not just like the generic promise of as good as Game Pass is. Like, it's not, it's not Starfield. It's not, the next Bethesda game. It's not Skyrim or Elder Scrolls 6. This game, it has to be good. It's going to be buggy. I think people are going to look past the bugs like they have generally been able to do. It's going to be so, filled with things to do. Like, it seems like a smaller version of No Man's Sky, but with the kind of world building that Bethesda has been known for, with the Fallout games and the Elder Scrolls games. So I've got it at an 88. I think this game is going to be great. I think them delaying it was like, it must have been like there's this gut wrenching decision. Like they know that they've got like this diamond in their hands. They can't fumble this one. They can't let this one just come out and be a mess. So I imagine the delay was largely for polishing, bug crushing, things like that. I think we did see some gameplay, David, at the E3. They did that big demo, that kind of 5 or 10 minute thing. I think there was a long segment on Starfield. I think we did get to see some gameplay there. And it did just look like Fallout in space. It's living up to that promise, I think. So I know we had the Outer Worlds from Obsidian kind of deliver on that promise, but I think Starfield's really going to hit it out of the park here. So,
do you think Phil Spencer put his fist through a window when he was told that they had to delay?
It's one of those decisions like you're making while you're like crying, like you're not happy about it. It's like a Sophie's Choice kind of thing. You're like, oh, we hate to delay it, we hate it, like, but it just has to be done because it's the fruits of this partnership. Like this is the game to show off that they made the right decision in acquiring Bethesda. It has for investors, for everybody. This game has to work out, and that's why I've got really high expectations for it. Did I say 88? I've got it at 88.
Yep. And based on Paige's score, she has lower expectations.
This would be Phil Spencer putting his fist through a wall if this happened.
Well, it's just that these sort of games tend to launch with a lot of issues, and nowadays I've seen reviewers from the big outlets that actually get these codes in time. They're more willing to do a little bit of a lower score if the game is running terribly and has other issues, or even just running terribly. Like, Pokemon got scored pretty low by some places, even the Saints Row did. So I think, they could sit more at 7s if there are serious issues with the game in terms of bugs and performance and things like that. Along with, because we've also just seen very little of the game, how it's actually going to play and how it's going to compare to the other things like Skyrim and Fallout and that. So I think it potentially, depending on how it turns out, it could get a 75 even from all the critics combined.
Well, and this is Bethesda, so bugs are virtually guaranteed. It's like it depends on, is this like cyberpunk level of bugs, or or is this going to just be acceptable?
Okay, now you're jinxing it here. Like this is that's going to do it.
What's funny though is I saw a recent thing about Cyberpunk winning some Steam award or something, and then all the glowing praise, and I'm thinking like, where were you guys 2 years ago or whatever it was when this came out?
Cyberpunk on
the
PC,
180 that game has taken, it's wild. Like
Cyberpunk on PC 86, but on consoles it got 57 and 61.
Yeah, and so I went with an 81 because my biggest concern is that the game has to play on both the Series X and the S, and I'm curious how much of a are they going to have to suffer to play on an S? Like, is it going to be like an extremely noticeable difference between the two? Because I think if there's a lot of reviews coming in, like, are they going to play on both, or are the reviewers going to be playing on S and then tanking the score because it's a shell of its Series X version? Like, I think there might be some leeway that way. So I was trying to kind of cover my bets with an 81. I'm kind of concerned about this being the one that maybe gets Jordan the win because it's Bethesda, so it could end up being in the 90s. There's a bit of a concern there. So this one might be a winner decider, I think, potentially.
I think that's a fair comment to make. We'll be waiting with bated breath for this one.
Yep. And the last official game for our little competition here is the Dragon Quest III remake. So again, there's no set date for this one. I think all indications seem to be that it's pretty much done. I think Hori evens, or no, who's the director again?
Yuji Horii is right.
Yuji Horii, yeah, okay, right. I think he mentioned that they're pretty much done, or at least close to being done. So it sounds like from what we're hearing, that it'll probably end up coming out in 2023. If I think even if like Octopath has a huge like makes a lot of money and gets reviewed really highly, there might be some motivation to get it out shortly after that too, as like a follow up. My only well, actually, Paige, why don't you kick us off with this one, because I know you're a pretty big Dragon Quest fan, even though you are the lowest of the three of us on the.
Well, I'm talking about Metacritic scores, not what I would score.
No,
what we're taking into account. So I've gone with 70 because, from what I've heard, Plays One, I've heard it's good, and I'm sure the visuals will help a lot. I'm not sure how far they're going into faithfulness versus like what slight improvement they might make, but I'm also thinking this is a remake of like an NES era game that automatically, with like modern tastes and sensibilities, will drop it down a bit. Probably with enough.
I think that's fair. Like there have been a lot of versions of this game. You can even play it on Switch with those awful mobile graphics. But
I don't mind the graphics, but I hate games where the sprites of people that are in one spot are just constantly moving. It really annoys me.
Yeah, it's horrendous for sure. Like I reviewed that when those games first came to Switch. I did review 3 and I really enjoyed it. Actually, I hadn't played it before. I think it's really cool. It's got an interesting kind of class system where you can choose the makeup of your party, kind of like Final Fantasy 1 did, right? But I think a few more choices. And the world's pretty big. It's a little bit hard to know exactly where to go next, but I'm sure they'll do a little bit more signposting with the remake. So I've got it at an 80. I do think it is coming this year. I think there was kind of talk of it even coming last year, but then it ended up slipping. So I can see this year.
Thinking of how they did Live Alive and seeing what changes they made, such as making findable items actually appear as sparklies instead of just randomly press A in front of some spot and see if there's something there.
That's right. Yeah.
And some other minor changes that they might change it just enough that people will be able to appreciate it.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think having the ugly mobile-y port-ish version of Dragon Quest 3 already on the Switch is going to benefit this remake, because you'll see how much better it is, and then they'll add to the score. I went with an 81 purely out of Price is Right spite on Jordan.
Had to do it.
I saw the 80 go down, and I thought immediately, I'm going $1 over. That's my plan on that one.
There had to be a Price is Right $1 overbid on this one, but I'll take so what? So I'd get like 67 to 79. I don't mind. I'm very comfortable with that range too. So
yeah, I'm hoping because I'm hoping the Switch crowd will appreciate the effort of remaking a classic Dragon Quest and give it a little bump. That's
it really depends on how much they remake it, right? Like we know it's got the HD 2D, but is that it? Is it going to be mostly like a cosmetic remake, or are they going to really change up systems, gameplay, tweaks like that? That remains to be seen. Obviously, we don't know yet. So
yep. So that's the official. Those are the games in the official competition that we're doing here. If there's some kind of wild, weird, insane coincidence that somehow with all these games and all these crazy scores, there's somehow 2 people tied. We do have a potential tiebreaker that we believe that Sea of Stars will release at the end of the year. That's kind of the going theory. And so we each have a Metacritic prediction for Sea of Stars. But this is only if there's a tie. So this one will not count if there's already a clear winner. And so I'm going to go with 89, just because as a Kickstarter, as someone who's in the Kickstarter, I've been seeing all the updates and everything looks incredible. Mitsuda's doing music, everything. They're using Chrono Trigger basically as kind of the inspiration. Everything looks great. I think the dev team, like I think they know what they're doing. So it's looking fantastic. So I'm going on the high end, going with an 89, going very, very optimistic with this one, and hoping that we don't even need this one. That I just mop the floor with you guys. That's my hope. and that I get to keep the reward that's still TBD.
Yeah, I mean, any chance you had of winning this competition, David, went out the window when you gave Octopath an 86, the lowest of the three of us. So I wouldn't be looking forward to that too much. But one thing we will look forward to, all of us, Sea of Stars, I gave it an 87. The game looks incredible. I went to a preview kind of event. I think it was in the fall last year, a few months ago. And just getting to see a little bit more of the game and hear the developers talk about it. Like they're obviously so passionate. They're so kind of locked into the games that have inspired Sea of Stars, and it kind of building on the universe of the Messenger. I think is really cool. I'm eager to see how elements of the Messenger find their way into Sea of Stars, but just kind of switching from one genre action platformer to turn-based RPG is so unique. You don't really see too many developers make such a big shift. So I'm very curious to see. It's obviously like a passion project and a work of love, and it's a game that another one to feel like, just like with Team Cherry and Silk Song, it's a game that these guys, they're not rushing to put out. It's ready when it's ready, and it does seem like they're aiming for holiday of this year. So hopefully that's the case, and yeah, hopefully comes in at an 87 or higher. I'd be thrilled.
And I'm going with the lowest, I guess. So it's 79. Again, this is the ones I didn't, look at their previous game to see what the score was, because the Messenger is pretty high. But and I haven't been, I think, following it as close as other people. I do feel that's okay. Aside from like some darlings, I think sometimes indie games often get ranked a bit lower. I still, yeah, again, I don't think, something that's like, nearly 80 is bad. I just think it might be a smidge lower than the high 80s. Maybe more just the bottom end of it.
I should have Googled this earlier. I was curious. Eastward kind of has a similar feeling to me of like, an RPG that people are going to enjoy. And I just looked it up and it got a 78.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm like, oh crap. But I'll stick with 89. I still think it has the potential to do it, but
well,
I guess
it might have a bit more action and less talking than this.
Yeah, that's true. But when with the devs, like with this being their first RPG, there's the potential for some trip ups, but
sure,
we'll see.
Yeah, and I think that's true. Again, the idea of switching from completely different genres from one to the next. But again, there was a Kickstarter for this game as well, Sea of Stars, right? So they not only do they have like money and backing based on the success of their first game and the DLC that came after, but also like people have already invested Kickstarter money in this too. So they've got a lot to play with to really polish up this game and make it nice.
You didn't back this one?
I didn't back this one, actually. I
thought you backed it.
No, I haven't really backed games since being burned a couple times.
Yeah.
Like of all the games I backed, Shenmue 3. Like I never again. Like just not backing any more games. I backed another game. I never remember the title. I get updates every month that just tell me it's not out on consoles yet. I'm like, just tell me when the Switch version comes out. So I'm very just not against Kickstarters, but just personally, I'm not really interested in investing in them.
Yeah. No, it's fair.
Yeah.
Well, that's I think that's our preview thus far. The year, like it's a pretty incredible catalog already, and there's for sure going to be drops of things that we weren't expecting. There's lots of games we didn't even talk about that are going to be good. And we're looking forward. There seems to be a very good mix of brand new games that we talked about, and then there's also all the remakes and remasters and ports of a lot of great games coming too, like the Pixel remasters coming out on consoles and the Personas, and it's gonna be a feast for RPG lovers.
Yeah, I mean, inevitably, I imagine even if we wanted to play all of these games, I'm sure we're going to miss a couple just for the fact that other games are going to be released around them that stand out as must plays, or we're all going to play them together or something like that. So Cool to reflect on the what we know of the year ahead, but gosh, there is still so much we don't know, and I'm eager to hear more about that too. Just never ending smorgasbord of RPGs and other good games to play. So
Yeah. I'm going to edit in. I don't know if you remember. This is going to be dating me. There's the Frasier episode where he keeps going on dates, but his father's girlfriend keeps like interrupting the dates.
Oh, that's hilarious. I don't remember that one. Frasier is something I've only seen in fits and starts. Like I've never done like a whole series watch of it. So,
but the thing that always stood out to me is with each girlfriend came over and he kind of scrambled to get things, like he's trying to get rid of the girlfriend of his dad or whatever, but he always has a toast with each one, and he always says 2 possibilities.
Yeah. That kind of encapsulates the year, right? It is a year. You mentioned it, up front, right? This could be one of the best years we've ever had in games, with maybe finally seeing the results of pandemic pushing all the games forward. This could be that year. So, oh man, yeah, it is very exciting for sure. I guess I'll wrap us up here. Thanks everybody for listening as always. If you like the Thirsty Mage podcast, please leave us a review on your podcast app. Tell a friend about us, tell a family member. It'd be nice to bring in new subscribers in the new year. Obviously we love the audience we have, but we're always hoping to grow. We're on Spotify as well. You can check us out there, wherever you get podcasts. That works. You mentioned, David, we're going to be doing an episode on Crisis Core soon as well. So if people are playing that or have finished it, stay tuned for our thoughts. I reviewed that game for Nintendo World Report, obviously, but we haven't heard kind of you, Casey, and Paige share your extended impressions of the game. So that'll be fun to listen to as well. If people have suggestions for episodes, you can always hit us up on Twitter at Thirsty Mage. It's just at Thirsty Mage or the Thirsty Mage.
No, the Thirsty Mage.
At the Thirsty Mage on Twitter. I'm at Wristman64. Paige, have you put up anything on YouTube lately?
Yeah, I did a video on the games I played last year, and I did a video listing most of the games that I'm looking forward to this year. Although I did forget about Dragon Quest III because I was pretty much just looking at what was listed at retail, so there was obviously some.
Yeah, fair enough.
That have been missed.
So you can check out Paige's YouTube channel, Paige G Guy. And I think that'll do us for tonight. So thanks everybody again for listening. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time on The Thirsty Mage. Bye.